seconds to let it wind up. Just a few more seconds. And it looks good. The meeting is yours, Mr. Chair. Let me know if you need anything.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:10 p.m. Cindy, will you first call the roll, please?
Yes. Barbara Garbett. We're waiting for her. Jason Pernick.
Here.
Betsy LaFond.
Here.
David Scott.
Here.
Shane Lackner.
Here.
Barry Hiscox. Excused. Judy Sternberg. Excused.
Okay, thank you.
welcome.
First item number 1 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. If everyone's had a chance to look at the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda by Betsy LaFond, second by Mr. Scott.
Aye.
All right, all in favor? I'm sorry, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Cindy, would you call the roll, please?
LaFond.
Here.
Scott.
Yes.
Aye.
Lackner.
Aye.
Pernick.
Yes. I'm sorry, I missed it.
Sternberg and Hiscox, and Garbett is absent right now.
Okay, so the motion is passed by 3 votes aye, none opposed. Item number 2, approval of minutes of previous meeting. Betsy, do you have any edits of the previous minutes?
No, I checked the minutes and they're fine.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
motion
I
to
see.
approve the minutes by Lackner, second by Dave Scott. Cindy, will you call the roll, please?
Lackner.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Pernick.
Yes.
LaFond.
Yes.
Garbett, Hiscox, and Sternberg absent for right now.
All right, thank you. Then the motion passes. And now we'll move on to item number 3, public comments. David, do you know who's handling the public comments portion?
Yeah, it'll be
first?
Mr. Milburn. And for the public, they can touch *9 on their keypad if they want to do a raise hand function to alert us that they would like to be involved and make a statement, not a discussion or question and answer. Are there any people indicating they might like to make a public comment, Mr. Milburn?
Mr. Scott, there are no people online right now at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. There are no public comments. Then we'll move on to correspondence. Is there any correspondence?
There is no correspondence.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we'll move on to item number 4 in the agenda. I'm sorry, item number 5 in the agenda, financial report.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Glad to see you all today. We can go ahead and look at the revenue and expenditure report that we included in today's meeting packet. So, but at the end of July, we were 58.2% of our way through the fiscal year, and we have spent 44.91% of the budget. I hope you guys had a chance to review. It all looks good to me. I will make one note for you guys. This check came in during the month of August, so it's not reflected in the activity for July, but just a note. Our penal fines are going to be a touch lower this year than we budgeted for. It was budgeted for $75,000. It will be, if I recall correctly, about $65,000. Penal fines for libraries across the state are down because no one drove for 3 months. So that's expected and will be reflected next month when we go through the budget. But if you guys have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Oh,
No? Okay. The record should reflect that that was the library director who gave the financial report. Thank you, Allison.
My pleasure.
Let's move on to item number 6 on the agenda, administrative reports. And Allison, you're up next with the director's report.
Certainly. Thank you. So we are in the midst of interviewing for our newest full-time position, the position that was left vacant when Amanda Vorse resigned, for a youth services position. So we, Trista, who's our head of information services, has interviewed, I believe she interviewed 10 candidates. We had a lot of really, really
Wow.
qualified people who applied. So she interviewed 10 in the first round, 3 in the second round, and she has identified the individual who she thinks she would like to hire. We're just waiting on the background check before we make that offer. So we should have some news by the next meeting for sure. Perhaps that person will have even started. Our drive-up window is on the verge of completion. I was hoping when I typed this up for you guys that it would be done by today, but no luck. We're very, very close. And so we'll roll that out basically as soon as it's done. We'll open it up to the public. We have a sign that will replace our curbside pickup sign so that people can start utilizing it. And then we'll give it a week or 10 days to sort of work through any issues that we have. And then we'll do a big publicity push so that people use it. We're really excited to have it. And I think it's going to be extra wonderful in the cold winter months. Perhaps not for the person who's working the window. Maybe we'll give them a special Commerce Township Community Library scarf. So right now, in terms of how the library is operating, we're still in that grab and go stage that we were at last month. We started that on July 7th. So patrons can come in, they can use the computers for an hour, a maximum of an hour. They can browse for a half hour, no in-person programming. And it's working really well. I think people are happy to be in the library, to be able to pick out their own books and not have to, just rely on the online catalog. They're happy to be able to interact with their librarians, and they're happy to not stay very long. I don't know that we would have a lot of people who are camped out here all day if we were allowing it anyway. We have a little bit of mask usage. People they're having a hard time keeping their mask up on their face, but nothing that you don't see if you go to the drugstore or the grocery store. So just a lot of reminding people of why we need to have our masks up over our noses. The Commerce Township Board of Trustees did approve our updated patron behavior policy at the August meeting. And the next thing I'll be discussing with them is the budget, which we will talk about in a bit. And then just an update on the Friends of the Library. They decided to cancel their October book sale, which they have annually every year. They have one in March and one in October. The March book sale April. So their April book sale was canceled, and then they did decide to go ahead and cancel for October. So right now they're not coming in and doing their normal day-to-day book sorting and other activities in the library. They're just kind of on pause. They do have some shelving where they have books that are for sale anytime the library is open. I've been helping them by reloading that. But other than that, they're sort of on a pause. I will see them for an outside meeting next week, September 2nd. And we'll see if they're interested in coming up with a way to accept donations. That's something that I have noticed the public is really antsy to do. They're really antsy to donate. I don't know if any of you guys have tried to donate at Salvation Army or anything, but the lines are really long. I think people did a lot of clutter cleaning while they were quarantined. So we get a lot of calls about the donations, but our hands are kind of tight on that. Until the friends feel like they're comfortable to come in and do the sorting. But so we'll see. We'll talk with them and we'll see what they decide they want to do going forward. But I'm kind of pretty supportive with whatever their decision is. I think that there's a way that we could accept donations, let them sit for a week, and then they can go through them if they're inclined to do that. Just today, we had the return of our Richardson Center Book Club. It was via Zoom, but it was really nice to do something that felt a little bit normal. Marika Zemke, who retired in June, is actually the one who's going to host that book club. And she was the one who did it before. So it was really nice for her to be able to see those library patrons and the Richardson Center seniors that she was used to doing book club with before. And other than that, we are currently researching Wi-Fi hotspots as a potential addition to the things that we loan out to the public here. I'm not sure if there ever will be a time like this that seems more perfect to add the Wi-Fi hotspots in terms of, how much weight we're all giving to, we just are depending on the internet in ways that we never have before. It's really kind of vital to work and to play and to everything. So our technology director, Ben, has been looking into that, and we think we have some solutions. So hopefully we'll have some more updates on that next month. We might have them by then, who knows? Do you guys have any questions on any of that?
Can you hear me, Alison?
Hi, Barry.
Sorry,
Barry,
I had one hell of a game trying to log on.
Oh,
I'm
you
sorry.
and Bart both.
I didn't know which code to use.
Let's indicate for the record that Barb Garbett has joined us as of 7:10 and Barry joined us as of 7:15.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jason.
You're welcome. If there's no questions for Allison, then we'll move on. And Barb, I think this might be a good place for you to take over if you'd like to.
Mr. Chair, the Barb's audio feed does not seem to be working at the moment. I can suggest that if Ms. Garboot has a traditional telephone, she can call in on the traditional telephone line and we can pipe her audio in that way. The number is, if she can see the screen, this is in the agenda also, but Ms. Garboot, if you have a traditional telephone, you can call in on that phone number and put in that same password and meeting ID information, and we'll get your audio at that point.
Okay, I will then just assist until Barb is able to join us. I think it should be noted that she's never had a problem like this before. She's always been on the ball and razor sharp when it comes to running a meeting.
And she
So-
has a new iPad on order.
Aha, we're going to chalk this up to the virus, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on to item number 6B on the agenda, library statistics.
Okay, so in terms of library statistics, you guys can look at our circulation stats. In terms of what our checkouts were last month, they were over 10,000. Our downloadables, which have continued to be quite popular, because I don't think everyone is particularly comfortable with coming in. So we love that we have that as an option, and the growth on downloadables that we saw in at the end of March and in April and May and even into June was pretty tremendous. You'll see the Melcat checkouts. That's towards the bottom of that sheet is at 0. So the Melcat is the statewide interloan system that was off. That was not available until the beginning of August. So we'll see a little bit of return to that. But we don't do a lot of that. We loan out items on that, but we do because we're part of the Library Network Consortium. We rely more heavily on that for our interloans because the items come a lot faster. You know, we can get those in a day to 2 days. Whereas if you get something from the statewide system, it might be coming from Marquette and it might take, 7 or 8 days to come, sometimes even longer. And our visitors to the library, so we had 3,691 visitors to the library in the month of July, which is obvious. It was very low for what we're used to, but I think that's just going to be what the reality is for a while. And then we had 226 per computer usage. So we didn't allow any until July 7th. We didn't allow anyone on the computer anyway. So that was really just the first 3 weeks of the computers. And just working the reference desk myself, I can tell you that we have a pretty steady group of people who come in and use the computer every day. And, I think everyone else, if they have a computer that they have access to at home, that's what they're using at the moment. Is there any questions? Do you guys have any of these statistics?
Could I ask something, Allison?
Absolutely.
Can you give kind of an overview on how the staff is adjusting to the emergency? How are they doing?
They're doing really well. I think especially when we opened the doors to the public and allowed people to come in and do grab and go on July 7th, there was a lot of anxiety about that. And it feels, now that we've been doing it for almost 2 months now, it feels a lot more normal. It was kind of like ripping off a Band-Aid. The initial part was very scary, and you can see it every day in the staff that it's just, this new normal it's okay. They're really making the best of it. It's, part of it is it's hard just because it's not as busy as you're used to being, on the public service desk, it's a lot quieter. Yeah, but everyone's doing a really good job, and we're troubleshooting things all the time, but we kind of have our days figured out at this point. So as long as this will be, I think they're really rolling with the punches, and I appreciate every single one of them. They have all done a really great job.
Do you think that they have everything they need to negotiate the shoals that they're asked to roll over?
I do, and I've really tried to kind of keep a really two-sided communication with them in terms of, I'm checking in with them often to say, is there, what do you need in order to do your job? Is there something that you don't have? Is there, someone said, I would really like size medium gloves. Okay, I would love to get you size medium gloves. So it's usually nothing, and they've had some thoughtful suggestions, and it's nothing, it's just maybe something that I didn't experience myself, or that I didn't think of, and we can get those items, and I'm happy to hear their suggestions. So I think they're doing a good job, and they haven't been shy of, if they need something else, and we've gotten it for them. It's nothing unreasonable. So
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything for Allison in the way of questions on the subject of library statistics?
No.
Nope.
All right, seeing none, then let's move on to item 6C, adult services programs.
okay, so in July we had five sort of special virtual programs, and then we had one staff-led ESL class, and then we also took our chair yoga class that we offered at a certain time and a certain day, and we were able to put that online. The instructor allowed us to put that online so that people could view it later. So we had really, really decent attendance. If you think about the month of July, it was beautiful, and people are outside doing things in their evenings. So, to have attendance like this is nice. I think that there's a real convenience in virtual programming that, as a librarian, I never really considered, that you can, be cleaning up after dinner and listening to a program at the same time. So I think that's really convenient. The most popular program was the Intro to Food Preservation program. The Michigan State University Extension put that on for us, and they did a really nice job. I will also mention that the Neighborhood Library Association, which consists of Commerce and then 6 of our neighboring libraries, have done a really wonderful job of partnering together during this time. So rather than each of us hosting, maybe the same presenter 7 different times, we're putting it all together, we're pulling it all together, we're inviting all of our patrons to that same program, because we're not having the barrier of distance, where I'm not expecting someone from Northville to drive all the way to Commerce for a program. So that's really worked well. And it's been fun to see. I was a part of this group when I worked in Walled Lake, but Commerce is new to the group, and it's been fun to see the Commerce librarians really get to know and get to work with these with their colleagues at other libraries. So I think there's a benefit to our patrons as well as to our staff in that.
Well done. Yeah.
All right, any questions for Allison on the subject of adult services programs? All right, I don't see any. And item 6D, youth services programs.
Okay, so the youth department was busy with programs in the month of July. They did 5 virtual story times, a handful of youth and teen programs as well. So one of the popular youth programs that they're doing are their program kits. So essentially their kids are going home with a bag, their parents are registering them, and they will come to the library on the day of the program, and they'll get all the ingredients to a program. So it's usually like a craft or something, an experiment, something that's making them think. And the lovely thing about these kits is that if the parents aren't comfortable coming into the library, they don't want to bring the kids into the library, or they don't want to come into the library, they can get those kits via curbside service. So they can get those that way as well, or they can come in and pick them up. And we've been essentially, we capped them at 50 and we've been selling them out. So, we have a lot of demand for those, which, has been really fun. And the librarians have been really creative in putting those together. And in August, we expanded those and we did some like teen and adult kits. So we're getting the grownups in on the action. So I don't know if any of you guys picked up your macrame keychain kit, but I hear it was really fun. So hopefully, you guys can get on the next one if you missed out on that one. So, and then we also started in July our online Dungeons and Dragons program, which is put on by our new teen librarian, Shelby. He's got a small group of kids who have started doing that with him, but they're really enjoying it. So I expect that will grow. He has two different groups of kids. So he's like an A group and a B group of kids. And the kids who did the kids in the A group who did the first Dungeons and Dragons program with him said, "Can we join the B group too?" And he said, "Well, let's make sure everyone can get in." So that's been really popular. They also did a virtual animation workshop, which was nice because it was on demand, so kids could kind of do it as their schedule allowed. So they didn't, they could do it around soccer or travel or chores, whatever it may be.
Okay, thank you. I
welcome.
think especially during these difficult times, the availability of programming from the library is as important, maybe more important than it is when people can walk in there and take advantage of it. So for those efforts on your behalf, thanks very much. I'm sure they're very much appreciated.
Yeah, and it's nice to, we're enjoying the virtual programs with the kids and with the adults, but it is nice to those kids, get the kids offline, especially now if they're doing school virtually. I think that it's nice to kind of give their little eyes a break and let them sit at the kitchen table and put a craft together.
Yeah.
Like that. So.
Put it on.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Allison on administrative reports? Barb, how are you doing? Are you ready to take over? No, I don't quite see her yet. So,
Mr. Chair, she still doesn't have audio. Ms. Garbutt, can you hear us at least? If you can, give us a thumbs up, maybe. Yeah, it appears that she's not getting audio either. So we're not, she's not sending or receiving audio at this point.
All right, let's move on to item number 7, old business. And I don't have anything on the agenda. I'm not aware of anything in the way of old business. Unless anybody else is, we'll move on to item number 8, new business and the 2021 budget.
If I can have you guys pause for 1 second, Barb is actually calling me.
Okay.
I might be able to get her to call in. Okay, I'm back. Barb might be joining us via phone. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
Okay, were we moving on to new business?
Budget, if you're ready.
Okay, so I sent you guys a draft of my budget memo that was going to go to the Township Board of Trustees, as well as the draft of the budget that I was preparing for them. But I wanted you guys to see it before I sent it in. If you guys have any questions, I would love to address those, or if you guys have suggestions to add those in. This isn't the final draft. I still have time to make some changes. I did send you guys an updated version today because we decided we wanted to add Blu-ray discs as a circulating collection here at the library. So I did add that in and added that into the budget as well. But essentially, we were kind of going for a bare bones budget in 2021, just because things are kind of up in the air. Also because one of the township trustees recommended that we be really thoughtful about our wants versus our needs. And so kind of keeping staffing where it is, but with the 3% increase, keeping books and materials at the same level that it was in 2020, but then adding $5,000 for that Blu-ray collection, and then as well as an additional $25,000 for downloadable materials, just because those are increasingly popular, and especially after this spring, people have really kind of grown to know and love the convenience of that. And traditionally, the Commerce Library hasn't put a lot of money into the downloadable books for the youth, for kids, and I think that is an area that we can increase our spending in that area as well, especially since the kids will be going to school virtually. It's also adding increasing expenditures in electronic databases. So sort of the same idea, giving more support to our virtual learners, things that people can access from home if they're not comfortable coming into the library, or who knows what the fall will bring if they're not able to come in, or the fall or the early winter. So increasing spending there. I decreased our revenues, or our anticipated revenues, in state aid, in penal fines, in photocopy fees, and also in room rental, just because some of those are a stretch to think. I mean, they're not going to go up. And I think that it's not a stretch to think that they're going to go down a bit. So looking on being a little bit more pessimistic when it comes to the revenues. And then I just increased, I estimated 3% increase for heating and electric, 5% in our contractual services, and a little bit up for our ILS, so our integrated library system. So that's the computer program that basically runs all of our operations here at the library. We get an estimate from the library network on that, and they estimate that we're going to go up by $1,000. We pay a base fee, but then and then the secondary portion of our of what we owe them is based on our circulation, as well as the number of items that we have in the catalog.
What is the base fee? Do you know that?
So it was at 30 last year. It was at $36,000, I believe. Let me see here. Yeah, it was estimated last year when we did the budget at 36.5, and I upped it to 37.5. So I don't know off the top of my head, and I could get it. What the actual base fee is versus the part that's estimated using the formula. I can get it, but I think
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, the estimated portion is pretty. It's a smaller portion of it. It might be $10,000. It might not even be that much.
If I could interrupt for just a moment, Ms. Garbutt, can you hear us? Can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us? I think she can hear us. If you press, Ms. Garbutt, if you press *6 on your keypad, it will unmute your line. *6 on your keypad. Again, I apologize for the interruption. There we go. I think we have you. Ms. Garbutt, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, believe it or not.
Okay,
Yay!
awesome.
Hey,
I had a problem too. I ended up using my daughter's laptop.
Well, I've Zoomed 100 times, but all my equipment seems to have gone to pot. So, and now my picture went, but I can still hear you, so I'll listen.
Welcome, Barb.
Allison, if I could,
Yeah.
I really appreciate your attention to detail, and I know that some of the trustees are concerned about our needs and our wants. I guess I would set the minds of the library advisory board at ease. All of the Commerce Township police, fire, operations, library, we're all funded completely. We're not relying on state aid, federal aid, revenue sharing, even though we greatly appreciate the revenue sharing that we receive as a township, and we know that revenue sharing is going to be reduced. The same we know that fees for road repairs are going to be reduced simply because they're funded by gas taxes. We've gone through 5 months of people doing very little driving, very little buying gas, and a dramatically lower rate of gas tax collection. Obviously, we do receive the penal code fine fees, and because of the lack of traffic, the lack of enforcement for 5 months, our police force, the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, has been operating on a no contact unless necessary protocol. We want to keep the police officers healthy, so when we do need them in emergencies, they are available and able to respond. So there has been a greatly reduced amount of enforcement. It's not that there isn't enforcement, but it's just been in a more dramatically reduced fashion. But I guess I want to go to the budget and talk about your electronic library systems, or I apologize, electronic databases.
Mm-hmm.
If we're looking at a large number of our patrons have been visiting us electronically, is $20,000 a big enough jump? Because honestly, I don't see us coming out of a gubernatorial override and freeing up more activity, or a large number of our patrons being senior citizens and unattended children that normally would be coming into the library on the weekends and would be coming into the library on a daily basis. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't increase the electronic databases more than $20,000. And really, I think it really just transfers from what would be walking in the door and picking up physical books are going to be patrons who are operating off of the electronic format. But I don't know how much bang we get for our buck when $20,000 is a lot of money. But does that really give us a broader painted path, or should we go higher?
Are there databases for children that are virtual schooling that can support them
Yes.
through the library?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of different ones. So depending on the subject matter that they're working in, depending on their grade and things like that. But yeah, absolutely.
I think we have to get the word out that we have all of this for
Mhm.
them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ashley and Lauren, who both work in the youth department, just put together some COVID resources on a page on our website that sort of highlights all of those. So they highlighted a lot of the, if you need something, if you need English, English help, or if you need geography help, you'll go here, to kind of directing people, because it can be really overwhelming.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's going to be, a matter of us outreaching to the teachers as well as to the parents. But there are a lot of different databases to help the kids during this time. Addressing what you were saying, Supervisor Scott, in terms of the downloadable books and the downloadable ebooks, the appetite is there for more. It's very popular. What I would say is the way downloadable books work, and I guess the way that we all think of things that we get from the internet, is that, we get in that mindset where, like, well, if I want it, it's just going to come down from the sky and I'm going to have it.
Yeah.
And so, so it's hard for people, or it's disappointing for people when they have to wait. And the way that the ebooks and the e-audiobooks are licensed from the publisher is that when we have one copy, it can go out to one person. Let me preface that by saying that's via Overdrive. which is one of our two vendors. Hoopla, which is the other vendor, does have a simultaneous use model, but typically those titles are not as new. The publishers only let those be on Overdrive to begin with, because if I have 500 people in line and I buy a new copy for every 10 people who are holding, then I'm buying 50 copies and they're getting a lot of money, because the ebook licenses cost a lot more than buying a physical book. Almost always. There are some publishers who play a little nicer with libraries, and there are some that really feel that libraries are taking money out of their pockets, so they want to make us pay for the items. So if we wanted to put more money in, I would not be opposed to that at all. I know that the patrons would use it, and we can wait and see.
Is it want versus need?
Exactly. And I mean, this is what we're here for, is to get people to get this media into people's hands. I would absolutely expect you guys to balk if I was like, I'm gonna get all new furniture for the library, even though I'm not letting anyone sit in the library.
Yeah.
But we're not going to the movies, and we're not going to sporting events, and this what a better time to actually sit down and read something. And if it's on your iPad, or if it's a physical book that you're getting through our drive-through window, or if you're coming inside for it, I think you can make a good case for that. So if we put more money in, do I think that it would get used? Yes. The nice thing is we don't have to deposit, $20,000 or $50,000 all at the beginning of the fiscal year and spend it. If we have a vaccination, or COVID just magically goes away on April 1st, we don't have to spend it all if we're not getting the use. But right now we're kind of buying copies based on what people have on hold, and sometimes it's nice to have the opportunity to kind of expand the collection a little bit as well.
So I guess what I'm looking at is there a way for us to say that, let's say 50% of participation in electronic services has increased, obviously because of the inability to come into the library, or the caution that they're still exercising, that they're not comfortable coming into the library. And there are a vast many people in that scenario. And I know we all see it with our children, our grandchildren, ourselves. Someone has to take a class, they've got to read, Catcher in the Rye. And, every mom and dad and grandma and grandpa are online trying to find that decent copy for $1.25 that they can have sent to the house overnight. But if we can get it working to where they can get online to the library, and we can support a pod of children in a neighborhood who are all going to read the same book, there's got to be some merit in that. And I just got to believe that I know that we have millage money that's supporting our library, and I think our penal code violation funds is kind of like we always look forward to it arriving, but it's not it's not going to make us or break us.
Correct.
As well as the Friends of the Library have always been very generous in donating back money from the book sales and things that they're doing to assist us, that library staff would otherwise have to do if they did not exist. It just seems like there might be a higher number that we could justify that. I mean, we're not going to abolish the wait time, but if we can decrease it or increase the volume of use, I would think that's a really good thing, especially in the COVID emergency.
So between this year and last year, we saw the number of unique users who are on Overdrive grew by 24%. So, 24% more people were actually logging into the site. So they're, knowing about it, which I think is wonderful. I had Dustin pull the numbers towards the beginning of August, the number of people who were holding for titles. And there are 2,000 Commerce patrons holding for titles. But that's, that's keeping, keep in mind that there are power users in there. Those are people who have maxed out the number of holds, So, Betsy, you might have one thing on hold, but Supervisor Scott and me and Barb, we're all maxing out our holds at 10. So, but that shows you how, popular the service is.
I get it. I know when I listen to, and from the board standpoint, Mr. Burkeiser and Mr. Sobel are obviously users of the electronic database. And I know that they also, if you will, using that term, the power user, they're maxing out all their requests because they are on hold. So whatever they do get, that's what they read, that's what they adapt to, and they adjust. It's really no different. Do they drive to Walmart and look for a book? Do they go to Meijer to look for a book? Do they go to the, find a bookstore and look for a book? They're just doing it online. They're looking for 10 books. They just want to feed that brain or accomplish a task and get as many as they can. So I guess if the increase is, if you jumped it 20% or $20,000, is that 25% or what would be the percentage increase? And would that be commensurate to the increase in volume use by electronic users?
Right. So, we could go, do you want to go up to 125? We could go up to 130. I'm comfortable with it. Knowing that if the demand's not there, we're not buying the books, I think.
Yeah. And we're not using it if we're not spending it if we're not using it.
Right.
So I would think that if we went to, a 130 or 135 in that range there, that would kind of match what our demand is. It may cut down on wait times substantially. And then, as you say, if we get a virus inoculation, if there is a change, the gubernatorial orders are relaxed, then we probably won't end up spending that money. But in this day and age, it seems like we should seize the opportunity, like we have with the drive-through window, to provide the service to the people. And maybe it'll just, for the year, it'll turn out to be a wash. We didn't have to buy as many books because not as many books got worn out because they weren't being handled and distributed. So we supplemented with electronics. But I will yield to you as the subject matter expert what that percentage is. I just think it should go up, especially if there is a demand and a wait list that exists.
Okay. Yeah, that's great feedback. I'm totally comfortable with upping it to 130 for the electronic databases, if that sounds good to you guys. And we'll see what the township board, what their feedback is.
Okay. I would ask you to do that.
Okay.
And I certainly don't want to overwhelm. I will admit I am I'm not the power user, but I love the library.
Yeah, I think a lot of people use the library in a lot of different ways, and that's part of the magic of it.
Yeah.
Okay, any additional discussion for Allison on the subject?
I did want to mention staff salaries really quickly. Towards the end, I did note that I added a new job description. I was auditing Bill Wines's job description, and it hadn't been updated in a really long time. And then when I did that, I had to add a lot of things. He's picked up a lot of different responsibilities since he started working here 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was recommending that his salary get brought up a touch due to all of those additional responsibilities that he had. And I know you guys all, I'm sure, are really familiar with Bill since you guys got to work with him prior to my getting hired. I think he does a great job. He's wonderful to work with. He does all of those things on his, 3 or 4 page job description. He does all of them really well. So it was my recommendation that he get just a little bit of a wage increase in addition to the 3% cost of living increase. It would bring him up to $60,000 a year. So that was my recommendation in terms of Bill's salary.
What was the salary before?
He's at about 54 right now.
Uh-huh.
So his cost of living increase, and then it would be an extra about $3,400 on top of that to get him up to $60,000 a year. Just
right.
So that was my
sounds good.
recommendation. You know, he does do a great job, but I when I looked at his job description, there were a lot of things missing because the library's, you know, it's in a new building and the library has a lot of new different technology and different things that he has to manage. So
If I'm not mistaken, Allison, absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly. He does deserve an increase. But I thought just before you came on board that we actually, didn't we put it in the minutes that we thought Bill did deserve an increase in wage?
I believe he had a temporary wage increase during the time that he served as interim director, and that went away after I got hired.
Well,
Yes,
we
that's
absolutely,
exactly what we did.
yeah, I was gonna say, we absolutely need to make sure that that he gets a wage increase. He does a fantastic job.
Okay.
Does a fantastic job.
Okay.
All right. I appreciate you highlighting that, Allison, and I know
no problem.
the Board of Trustees will also appreciate that paragraph explaining why. And not for you, but for the Library Advisory Board, I personally, as the supervisor, would request an increase for the library director's position as well. I do know that when we went out to locate a librarian, when we did acquire Allison, and the benefits that she has brought to the Commerce Community Library are exponential. But I did not have the ability at the time to give her a higher wage. We were kind of locked into it. So I do believe that I'm asking for an increase in Allison's wage above that 3% increase, or percentage increase that we're going to be doing across.
You're here. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, any additional discussion on the subject of the budget proposal?
We don't have to make a recommendation to the board about an increase in salary, do we?
Yeah, I believe we should. Allison is going to go before the board with the Library Advisory Board suggested budget. You will go under the knife and whittle away at what are the wants, what are the needs, what do we want to provide to the community, and how is it funded. So we really should provide her with a stamp of approval that says this is what we would like the board to approve.
Is that for Bill also, or for both
Yeah.
of them? Okay.
Dave, do you
Well, at
think it's
least for Bill, I can do the one for Allison. But I do believe we should support her on Bill's raise.
Dave,
So
do you
I
think it
looked
would
at-
be, sorry,
It's okay.
Allison, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I did look at what you guys, I think what happened last year, and I'm not sure if it happened in years prior to that, but I believe county presented to you all this budget, and I think you just, approved it as a whole.
Right.
But if we think we need to do the salary increase as a separate motion, that's okay as well.
Let me ask this question. Does your budget as proposed include the increase in salary?
It does.
Okay, so Dave, do you think it's sufficient then if we just ask for a motion to approve Allison's proposed budget?
I believe that is more
Yeah.
than appropriate.
Yes.
And then you can explain, one of the things that we've asked department heads to do, or I've asked department heads to do, is simply to earmark why are there changes, if there are changes, plus or minus. And so she can explain that change. And it's a very easy one to do. Bill has stepped up repeatedly. When Connie was ill, he stepped in to fill voids. When we were going through the process of acquiring a new librarian, Bill stepped in to fill voids. And I don't mean to embarrass, but Bill has had a lot going on his plate at home, in private, and professionally. He's done nothing but a spectacular job for us.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Here's
I
what
would
I'd suggest then. We'll wait till the item on recommendations township board, and then we'll make a motion to recommend that the board adopt Allison's proposed budget.
Perfect.
Okay, any other discussion on the subject of budget? If not, then we'll move on to township board remarks.
Gosh, not a lot going on when there's just a lot going on. And I'm happy if there's something that you want me to address specifically, I can try to. The township is moving forward. We had a disappointing turnout in my eyes, if you will, for our primary election with 34,000 registered voters. Only 27 or 2,800 came out to vote for the supervisor's position. There will be a change in November. And as I indicated all along, I will leave it better than I found it, and I will help whomever replaces me. But with that being said, everything going on in the township has been going really well. Our adaptations to COVID, the senior center is our last soldier in line to be able to serve the community back in a capacity that it did previous. But our staff has adapted to doing daily checks on seniors by phone. 3 days a week, we're handing out Meals on Wheel packets. We're doing food bank assistance. And the staff at the senior center, though they aren't doing any property rentals or things of that nature, has been doing a phenomenal job. I think we're on our way. When it comes to the clerk's office, Clerk Melissa Creech is on her way to another historic election. And everything that she's been involved in has just been very tasked, very difficult, and historic in nature, if you will. So the clerk's office is busy as can be. The treasurer's office is also raking in tax payments nonstop. We are a little bit worried from the state standpoint. Revenue sharing is definitely going to decrease from the state of Michigan. Monies that, if we were a city like Wixom, Walled Lake, Troy, they get Act 51 funds. Townships get revenue sharing funds. We've been told by the Michigan Association of Townships and the state legislature that those fees are going to drop off dramatically. It started with a 25% reduction to a 50% reduction. They've suggested, the state has suggested that it could go to a 100% reduction. Now, keep in mind, we do not rely on paying the bills, the staff, or anything with revenue sharing. That's the gravy that comes to help us do unbudgeted and other issues, but still it is funds that we have had on a regular basis for decades. Other than that, things are going phenomenally. We did submit to Oakland County through the Oakland County CARES Act. Of course, we are one of 5 communities, being Oakland County, that received $219 million in federal funding. We've been able to recoup our losses and our emergency fees that we had to spend creating plexiglass barriers, drive-through window, personal protection equipment, cleaning of buildings, anything that happened. The CARES Act funding has made us whole. We also, with the legislature changing the operations, we also, through the CARES Act, the county government was generous and allowed us to award each of our firefighters a $1,000 hazard pay. None of our firefighters in Commerce Township were given overtime or hazard pay because of dealing with the COVID. We went to some very dramatic changes in how we did things to be proactive. It made things very good for Commerce Township. Other communities that were slower to react, and not because we did it better than they did, but we've never gone through this, so they didn't know what to do. And I'll just use, for demonstrative purposes, the city of Rochester Hills, one of their very first COVID emergencies, happened to be a morbidly obese individual. So the paramedic crew that was exposed called for backup. Another paramedic crew came to assist. An engine crew from a house fire was out on the street. They decided to swing by. So on one run, suddenly the city of Rochester Hills had 18 firefighters that had to go into 14 days of quarantine, not go home and not expose. And they quickly realized, wow, we've got to adapt and do what Commerce did. When we go to a medical emergency, one firefighter goes to the door. They talk to the people through the door. What's the problem? And they do a quick emergency room triage. Do we need to come in and be hands-on with all the personal protection gear? Or is it, I don't feel good, or my smoke detector battery's going off? Any scenario that you could imagine. But we were very, very lucky that we adapted quickly, and we had very few incidents of exposure. We do have some people in the community that have just been tested positive as of yesterday that I spoke to today. They're going through the process of quarantine and medical monitoring, but they're at home, and the world moves on. I would say, as a reminder to anybody who might be listening for the board, the Library Advisory Board, if you have a friend, if you have a family member, you have a neighbor, you have someone in church or a book group that is stressed out, they need help, they are not alone. There are places, whether it's a suicide prevention hotline, whether it's organizations like Hospitality House or Open Door Research, where they don't know where their next meal's coming from, or they need help. We need to emphasize that as much as possible. Normally we don't discuss these things, but I think we've had 3 suicides since the COVID emergency stopped that simply are COVID related. They can't go to work, their business can't work, they can't make money, they don't know what to do, and they get into that terrible situation where the solution is to harm themselves. It's very sad. It is a reality, and it's here at home for us. So anything we can do to emphasize that help is out there, help is out there. On a public service note, again, September 19th coming up, Saturday, September 19th, is our Household Hazardous Waste Day. So all of you who have cleaned your basement twice and your garage 3 times, and you have light bulbs and batteries and mercury, a jar of mercury from an experiment or a broken thermometer, Lord knows what. You've got oil-based paints or an old can of kerosene or an old fire extinguisher. September 19th is the day to line up, drop that stuff off. Don't let it go into the trash. And it is impressive. I try and post as many pictures as I can at Household Hazardous Waste. We typically last year took in over 1,000 gallons of gas and oil, over 1,000 gallons of diesel fuel, kerosene, and other liquid accelerants. We received over 500 propane tanks, over 500 fire extinguishers that, in days gone by, maybe Dad or Uncle Bob would go out in the yard and discharge it in the lawn. And, look, it still worked, even though it was on red. It said it didn't work. It worked fine. That's in the environment. That's out there in the ground. These things, the just massive volume that we're taking out of the community and getting rid of it appropriately is phenomenal. So hopefully we can get that advertised through the library as well to alert those people that September 19th is Household Hazardous Waste Day, and get that going. Anything else specifically that anybody wants to know about?
Can you bring TVs?
Yes. They do
Large,
electronics.
large flat screen?
Yep.
Okay.
David?
Yes, sir.
Barry here. On the question of the grant money, that Hospitality House succeeded in getting almost $100,000 out of the setup through Oakland. Recently,
It was very
they
important.
received a check. Yeah, it's great.
Very important
And
for us.
Wardlake Central School, instead of collecting food and going around the houses, they had a collection, donated nearly $9,000 to Hospitality House. The hats off to everybody.
It was
Yeah.
actually, it was
8-8.
it was the class of 2020. It was their prom money. That's
It
it
Oh,
was.
yes, yes.
was very sweet.
How touching. It was very
You're
sweet.
true.
I
That's
will,
a-
from the frustrating side of the township, as just as an example, and this is the frustrating side of it. And so the deputies responded to Walled Lake Central High School for a burglary alarm last night. They caught 4 kids who had broken into the high school through a roof access point. One was a resident. All of these were 17 years or older in age. One was from Livonia, one was from Grosse Pointe, one was from Northville, and one was from Commerce. The old fire extinguishers, the deputies apprehended them. The one boy from Commerce Township was injured because he actually broke his hip jumping off the roof of the school. But the deputies went to all the effort to do the investigation, to capture the perpetrators, recover the stolen property, and the school said, "We don't want to prosecute." Makes me nuts. And when I liaison to those administrators, I went, "Who are you to say you don't want to prosecute to protect the assets of the community? They're not just yours. It's not just you." And so it's a little frustrating. I know Jason knows this firsthand as well as a professional prosecuting attorney, but those are just some of the things that occur. Food for thought.
Wow.
Well, we'll see if the kid who got injured doesn't turn around and sue the school district for the injuries. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any comments or questions for our township supervisor? Okay. Thank you very much, Dave. Let us move on to the next item, recommendations to the township board. And we'll have at least one on Allison's budget. But aside from that, are there any other recommendations to the township board?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Allison, your job description for circulation and technical services manager, has that changed?
So what's in the packet is my proposed update for it. So I think the township board would need to approve it.
Okay.
So that's just the draft at this point.
All right. Does that take care of what you needed, Cindy?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. At this time, then I'll entertain a motion to recommend to the township board that they, I don't know, would you say adopt, Dave, or review, or what?
Adopt the budget prepared by the director.
Okay. At this time, then I'll entertain a motion to the township board that the library advisory board recommends that they adopt Allison's proposed budget for 2021.
And I'll second, Shane will second.
All right.
Bill,
Was that,
I would ask before you do a roll call that includes the increase in the electronic services category.
that would be part of the motion. Was that motion by LaFawn and second by Lackner?
Yes.
I thought, oh, okay. I thought you made the motion.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, Jason. I thought
Jason, you made the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I seconded it.
All right. Did you get that, Cindy?
No, I didn't. Who made the
Okay.
motion?
Motion by
Jason.
Pernick, seconded by Lackner.
Okay.
All right. Cindy, will you call a roll, please?
Pernick,
Yes.
Lackner,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
LaFond,
Yes.
Garbett,
Yes.
Hiscox,
Aye.
and Sternberg is absent.
Before I indicate what the vote was, I'll ask if there was any additional discussion on the motion. And seeing none, then the motion passes. Any other recommendations for the township board? All right, Seeing none, then item number 11, other matters. Any other matters that we should discuss? All right, I don't see any other matters. Item number 12, before we pass on to that, the next meeting of the Library Advisory Board is scheduled for September 23rd. I think it'll probably be up in the air as to whether it's in person or by teleconference. Okay.
Yep.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn the meeting for the evening.
Support.
Motion by Lechner, second by Scott. All in favor?
I.
Aye.
All in favor? And so we're adjourned at 8:15 PM.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
So
you,
long.
everyone.
You're welcome.
Keep
Sure
safe.
been fun.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Barb. Barb, you did a great job.
Thanks, Jason.
You're very committed, Barb.